Out in the forest the orange tree grows. Way in the back, nobody knows. The fruit it grows is magical indeed. Just one bite will put you to sleep. In Chapter 5, it's called Lucky Men Are We. We're going to take a look from Norman's eyes at what it's like to be a speaker on the stage. Join us as we read Chapter 5. Chapter 5, Lucky Men Are We. The stage smells of hard wood and polish. The stage hand, whose name is James, hustles back and forth, checking backdrops, switches, and wiring. Norman Shooter stands where he can watch the speakers on stage without causing a disruption of the stagehand's work. Don't you want to wait in the green room, Mr. Shooter? The stagehand says while he double-checks the wire connections at the soundboard. Norman stands in stage right, watching the speakers on the stage in front of him. No, James. Norman stops for a moment and considers what he just said. Does he have the right name? It is James, right? Norman asks. James gives a quick nod and continues his work. I really like watching the other speakers, James. They're artists. Do you know that? Most people think they come to these speeches to learn something about business. The audience members want to be rich. He or she wants to be happy. The talented speaker will make each and every one think that he has the secret. For just a small fee, you can have it all, the speaker will say. And the speaker will have every member of the audience believing that this is the absolute truth. There's an art to this kind of magic. Norman is mesmerized by the happenings on the stage. I used to pay thousands to hear the best speakers, and they sold me on it all. Norman looks to see if James is still listening. After confirming that he has James's attention, he turns back to the stage. Don't you see, James? You and I have a special opportunity. We get to listen for free. You and I. We have private seats, stage right. So why would we ever want to hide in a green room when we can see all of this? Norman motions to the stage with the simple intonation and inflection of his words. He did not move a finger, but one might think that he had swung his arm gracefully over the stage, the speaker and the audience unveiling, as if for the first time, the scene that lay before him. James stops working for a moment to watch the stage and the light that Norman Shooter has cast upon it. Perhaps for the first time in James's life, he saw something more than a bunch of planks and bad lighting. On the stage, a woman speaks. She speaks about happiness, and she notes that happiness can only be found after we admit just one thing. Our value, she says, the stuff that gives us a sense of self-worth, is dependent on our own perceptions and not the perceptions of others. We must not look to other people for a sense of self-worth because other people cannot provide that to us, and yet that is where we all look. We look to our fathers, we look to our mothers, we look to our bosses, our teachers, our friends, our pastor, our local police officer, our neighbors. We look so many places to find a sense of self-worth. But the one person that we fail to ask for an opinion of our worth is ourselves. The woman calls to the audience for some participation. A person comes onto the stage, and Norman points to the person ascending the stage's stair. That person, the one that just got on stage, Norman says, probably paid $5,000 to be here today, between the plane tickets, the hotel rooms, event registration, and everything in between. James responds, I never really thought about it much. The hall fills up every week. Every week there are speakers. Every week there are people to see them. I never really stop to think about where they're from or why they're here. James chuckles and pats Norman on the back as though they were new old pals. He jests, "I just work here, Mr. Shooter." James leaves, and Norman watches the speakers, speaker after speaker, deliver skillful presentations, and Norman takes notes on each of them, how they pause, when they pause, how they emote with big gestures, and when they resort to a smaller gesture. Each speaker is a skilled artist, and by studying their technique, Norman will become better at his craft, and he will break barriers that he never thought possible before. Understanding how better speakers operate is the key to Norman so that he can make it to the next level of progression in his career. Time flies, and when John Callum takes the stage, Norman knows that he has to get ready for his own speech. Norman gets his head right. He takes the stage next. He starts breathing exercises. He touches his toes and stretches his lower back. He spreads his arms wide and reaches as far as he can. The muscles tighten in his back, and he can feel his spine crack just a little bit. John Callum exits the stage, and the audience applauds. The event's MC takes the microphone to prepare the audience for Norman's set. The MC reads off Norman's introduction, and Norman tries to ignore exactly how wrong it is. They always mess up his introduction. They never deliver it with the same polish a professional speaker expects. The delivery is tired, lazy, without energy, so Norman will have to bring the energy with him. Norman starts jumping to build the energy and runs onto stage to a thunderous applause. Now is his time to shine. That was a short chapter. I think we'll move straight into chapter 6, called Motivational Speaking. As we move into chapter 6, remember to click the subscribe button below so that you get all the chapters of this book. Chapter 6, Motivational Speaking. Burton is sitting in the front row when Norman Shooter runs onto stage. All day long, people have been talking about Norman Shooter. Burton made sure that he had a seat, front and center. Before we get started, I want you all to get up. Norman is still running back and forth on stage like a madman. He is loud. His voice commands attention, and yet he is not screaming. I hope this is worth it. Speakers are always trying to make Burton stand and sit and stand again. Burton hates standing unnecessarily. I've been watching you from the side of the stage, and no one has let you stretch your legs for hours. Norman shows everyone how far he can stretch his legs as he bounds up and down on the stage, stretching his legs to the longest possible point and claiming a few feet of air while he's at it. Be kind to your legs. Stretch them out. If you want them to be a real success in this world, throw in a couple of jumping jacks. Jump with me. Norman is bouncing up and down on the stage. Slowly but surely, everyone in the audience starts to bounce up and down too. Burton really doesn't want to bounce. He doesn't want to stand either. But when the person on his left and the person on his right start bouncing, Burton starts hopping up and down too. It doesn't take long. Burton bounces once. He bounces twice. Why do they make us do this crazy shit? Soon Burton is bouncing faster. He's bouncing higher. He's smiling. The blood is flowing and oxygen is rushing to his brain. When Burton finally sits down, he doesn't remember exactly why he was upset before. Burton listens as Norman unfolds one story after another. Norman talks about the day that he and his fiancée were sitting on the couch, and she showed him the bills that were months past due. Norman talks about the hard times that followed, about the fights, about the breakup, about the pain, and all of it was because of money. They didn't have enough of it, and it caused trouble. If only they had more money. If only Norman had known what he knows now. If only Burton empathized with Norman every step of the way. He hangs on every word of each story, and he knows Norman's pain. Burton and his wife were fighting about money just last night on the phone. Burton knows the pain of not having money. Burton knows the trouble it causes in a relationship. Burton remembers when his wife started sleeping on the other side of the bed. The distance between them gets bigger and bigger, just like their debt. But Norman has answers for Burton. Norman has the key. So Burton listens closely. Norman has the audience on the hook, so he changes the mood. He changes his tone from loud and commanding to quiet and soft. He gives a long pause and allows the mood to change before he continues. Burton and every other person in the audience is waiting for the next word. The whispering and side conversations stop. Everyone in the audience waits for Norman to speak. "How many of you?" Norman asks quietly, and then he waits again. "How many of you have spent more than $5,000? Norman scans the audience. Burton wonders, is he reading us? Is he feeling out the room? What is it that he wants to know? How many of you have spent more than $10,000? Burton wonders if he should stand. The speaker is counting up. The anticipation builds. More than 25,000? Norman lets the weight of the number settle in. In the pursuit of finding that one secret that will take you from where you are to where you want to be. Burton throws up his hand, and so does more than half the room. Burton doesn't turn to count each hand raised, but from his seat he would guess that more than 90% of the room had a hand in the air. Burton is not satisfied with just his hand up. He doesn't want to be lumped in with the people that only spent $25,000. He wants to jump from his seat like a badge of pride. He wants the world to know that he has spent more than $75,000. So much more than any of these other people. If anyone deserves the secret to success, then it is Burton. The energy fills his whole body, but he fights to contain the urge to stand until he cannot withstand it any longer. Burton looks around the room at all the hands up. No one else is standing. So he fights his urge to jump for just a few more seconds, and he remains seated, but he cannot help but wiggle and fidget. Burton cannot help. He cannot take it anymore. He leans to his right and whispers to his neighbor, 25,000. I've spent 75,000. There. Now someone knows. And Burton feels tension release. I'm sorry, my friends, Norman continues, that so many other people have taken your money. And it is clear to me that they have not delivered. It is not your fault. Norman sings a sweet song from the stage like a bird on a tree limb. The audience is lulled by the sweet words that come from his mouth. He offers absolution. He offers forgiveness. It is not our fault, and Norman Shooter believes in me. It is everything that Burton wants to hear, because for a moment Burton was thinking that it was his fault. For a moment Burton thought that he had failed. In just a few moments, Norman says, you'll have a chance to buy my new book at the back of the room. I wrote it just for you, and just for today's event. Inside that book you'll find everything you ever wanted, and it won't cost you a fortune. People would probably pay me as much as $125 for just one of those books that I've written for you. But if you buy it here, if you buy it now, if you get your copy before you leave this room, you can get a copy for just $75. That's it. Not thousands of dollars, not a new car payment, not a mortgage payment, just $75 for the book that will change your life forever. Inside that book, I will tell you how to get more out of the money that you have already spent. I will show you step by step how to take the thousands of dollars that you have wasted and turn those coal nuggets into gems. If you paid a guru to teach you the secrets of flipping houses and you've not made any money yet, you will find the answers you seek in my book. If you paid a guru to teach you how to sell marketing services to Facebook friends and businesses, and you still cannot get anyone to buy the products you are trying to sell, then you will find the answers you seek in my book. If you paid a guru to teach you how to be a guru, and you cannot find your area of expertise, then you will find the answers that you seek in my book. Because it does not matter what you have invested in, the fact is that we all fail for the same 3 reasons. And I will tell you exactly what those 3 reasons are, and I will tell you exactly how to overcome them and turn your failed investments into gold mines. Burton feels the energy well up again. He must have that book. He stands up to make his way to the back. And if you and I really connected tonight, as I think we have, then I have an extra special offer for you. Burton sits back down. He has to know what the special offer is. Some people need a little bit more help than others. Some people really need to have a personal coach, not just a book. The book has everything you need. But isn't it better to have someone read you the play-by-play and tell you exactly what to do over the phone than to read a book and get nothing from it? Burton is eager to hear what comes next. He watches the stage. Even the man in the suit that Burton had not noticed before, standing off on the sidelines, seems mesmerized and hooked on what is coming next. Even he has come out of the shadows to hear Norman say these final words. "I'll be honest with you," Norman says. "I will tell you the absolute truth right now, and it is hard to hear. Some people will pay as much as $50,000 for what I'm about to offer. But for you, just for you, and just today, I will make you a special offer that my accountant will scold me for. If you feel that you could benefit from my personal guidance and coaching from someone as experienced as myself, then I will offer you bi-weekly coaching by the phone over the next 6 months. That's you and me in private conversation, 2 times per week. That's 2 hours of listening and talking about your goals and your dreams. It is having me telling you exactly how to achieve your dreams and holding you accountable each step of the way. And friends, tonight this $50,000 opportunity is discounted just for you. Tonight and tonight only, it is just $20,000. That's more than 50% off, but I only have time for so many calls, so this offer is only good for the first 10 people who sign up. You can sign up in the back of the room, right? Norman lets the energy in the audience build. It is like sex. He withholds the orgasm until she just cannot take it anymore. And then he lets them all go, all at once, right now. It's hard to tell whether Chapter 6 was more about Burton or about Norman. I think when I wrote the chapter, I'd intended it to be about Burton. We certainly heard it from Burton's perspective. But we also saw what makes Norman so successful at what he does. Who wouldn't like to have a book like that gives you all the secrets to turn everything that you've done in the past into gold nuggets for the future? Heck, I almost bought the book myself. When we come back, we're going to look at Chapter 7. It's called An Accountant Named Norman. If you remember, our speaker on the stage, Norman Shooter, has an accountant, and his accountant's name is also Norman. That was a confusing chapter to write, I'll admit it. Click subscribe below to make sure that you don't miss it.